Welcome to Unlocked with Rachel and Lauren. Today we're diving into something that is transforming healthcare as we know it. We're here to explore why functional medicine isn't just a trend, but it's actually the future of healthcare. So first things first, I would love for you to just give our audience a definition of what is functional medicine versus conventional medicine, because I'm seeing a lot more people enter this conversation and talk about it. But how do you define both of them, and what are some of the primary differences we see between the two?
Yeah. In a very simple way, I say conventional medicine is the medicine of what, and functional medicine is the medicine of why.
Ooh, I like that.
And conventional medicine, we're trying to really understand if the body is in a diseased place. And often when you go to the doctor, we'll run a lot of testing and we'll try to rule out anything major that could be going on, whether it's cancer, whether it's ulcerative colitis, Crohn's disease. And a conventional medicine is incredible when it comes to a lot of these acute-based problems, right? You get in a car accident, you break an arm, you have a heart attack. We know that conventional medicine saves lives. However, when it comes to a lot of these chronic health issues, when it comes to autoimmune conditions, things like IBS, depression, anxiety, functional medicine really explores why do we have this problem in the first place and what can we do to restore function. And we're looking at some of the drivers that create disease. And if we look at the epidemic that we're in here today, we know that most chronic disease comes from lifestyle and environment. So it allows us to not just look at extensive testing, to look at things like the gut microbiome, hormone, thyroid, adrenals, but it allows us to actually look at why these things are off in the first place, which could be stemming from one's lifestyle, could be stemming from their core traumas, it could be stemming from their environment. This could be the environment that they live in their home, relationships. This could be just overall toxins that are in the environment. And then another difference between conventional and functional is conventional often fragments the body. So we have different specialists, right? We go to the gastroenterologist, we go to the endocrinologist, we go to the dermatologist, and these are all experts in their trained field. They're incredible. But the problem is when we fragment the body, we miss how the body really is this interconnected system, how the gut influences the brain, how the adrenals influence the hormones, how everything is really interconnected. And another thing that functional medicine does is it looks at how the body is an interconnected system instead of a random collection of independent organs. So it's taking more of this holistic approach to healing.
I love that. I mean, when you say it, it makes so much sense, right? Like we're a whole body. You can't cut off an arm and put this part of the body here and this part of the body there. But I hear a few things in what you're saying. I think one is that functional medicine has an integrated approach where conventional is more fragmented. But then also in conventional medicine, I think we see this a lot, that health is just defined by the absence of feeling sickness and disease. And sometimes that means that it's just symptom suppression. And, we talked about this, I think it was last night, if you have a fire alarm that goes off in the middle of the night, what do? You get up and you say, where's the fire? But imagine if a fire alarm goes off and instead of going, where's the fire, trying to find the source of it, you wake your family up and you give them noise canceling headphones. And then you give them a special protective clothes to wear to shield from the heat. And in a lot of ways, that's what we've created. It's this environment in which we're trying to make each other comfortable, and we have a system that works on suppressing the symptoms rather than going, hey, where's the source of the fire? And I think that's a really important part of what functional medicine is getting to the root cause and understanding that it's more than just management of symptoms and symptom suppression, but actually really understanding that the body is working together and the body's trying to tell you something.
And I'd also say another big difference between the two is conventional. It's very much medicine first and foremost. And I saw this a lot in my own healing journey. And as most of us are taught, when something's off in the body, we go to conventional medicine, and that's what happened to me as I was growing up my entire life. When I experienced acne, I went to the dermatologist. I was put on a bunch of antibiotics. I even got on Accutane, which is a terrible, terrible medication. People are literally committing suicide as they get on it. I was put on birth control. And so when I started to struggle with a lot of my gut issues, it was, all right, go to the conventional route, which there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Please go to the doctor if you feel like there's something that's off in the body. But herein lies the problem, is once anything major was ruled out for my overall health issues, so there was no Crohn's, there was no colitis after they did the colonoscopy, endoscopy, CT scan, MRI, I was then given the label of IBS, irritable bowel syndrome, and I was then put on medication to manage these symptoms. So I was put on prescription laxatives because of my thyroid issues, because I saw that my thyroid had declined and I had hypothyroidism. I was put on thyroid medication. I was already on birth control because I was put on that as a teenager. For all of my PMS issues and for my skin issues. Yeah. And then even as I was younger too, I was put on an antidepressant because I was bullied a lot in school. So here I was in my 20s and on 5+ medications for managing all of these symptoms, each of them probably contributing to other symptoms. And I continued to get worse and worse. So, conventional medicine, again, nothing wrong with it. And sometimes we need medicine. Absolutely. Medicine saves lives. It should be a part of our medical process. But what we're really talking about here is where conventional medicine is the only route, and we're looking at as healthcare when it's really sick care. So when you're sick, and let's say somebody's in a really bad place mentally, they're really struggling with depression, I am not against somebody getting on an antidepressant to get them back to a baseline so that they can do some of the inner work, and so that we can explore what things are off internally in the body, other things off with their hormones, with their gut, with their nervous system, and looking more in the mind-body connection. But when medicine is viewed as the sole source for creating health, which it does the exact opposite. Here's the problem that we're really talking about, where functional medicine, it's not medicine first. We may utilize medicine, and we're a big fan of hormones and peptides, and sometimes the use of medicine, but when we explore the root cause, very rarely is there a need to have medicine. It may be in conjunction with the overall healing process, but the big difference is functional is very lifestyle focused and very root cause focused.
Yeah. And I think the thing is that there's so many incredible, talented people, healers, doctors, specialists that work in conventional medicine that are incredible interventionists. And the truth is that when you're dealing, if you get in a car crash and you're trying to save your leg from not having to amputate it, and you have a life-threatening disease, the advances in modern medicine are extraordinary and incredible. But I think there needs to be a conversation of how we create a synergy between conventional and functional medicine. Because I love what you just said there, that it's what we have is sick care. It's not health care. It's made for that intervention when everything has come to this point. But we don't have enough conversation about true healthcare and actually educating people to understand that there's so much that you can do that prevents that moment of needing the intervention to take place. But we're only taught to seek intervention. And many times, often that we're waiting until that moment where we're at emergency level, we're at that high pain point to seek out intervention without listening to our bodies when our body's first trying to give the signals to say, hey, something's wrong, something's off, and we have to listen to it to go, what's really at the root cause of that? And so we need a better conversation, I think, between how conventional and functional medicine should work together, how they can work together, because as you said, that's the healthcare of the future.
Look, I get it. You are burnt out with today's healthcare systems and options that are being offered. Maybe you've gone the conventional medicine route and you've gotten basic lab testing done and everything came back as normal, but you still felt like something was truly wrong in your body and you still struggle to get better. This is why I'm so passionate about what we do at Rachel Scheer Nutrition. We are not
like a lot of the other functional medicine practices that are out there. We are not a one-size-fits-all program. The system that we developed was actually what I wish that I had when I was struggling with my own health issues, when I was on 5+ medications and I was being told that I needed to have my entire large intestine removed. I saw firsthand what it truly takes to heal. And it's not just extensive labs. Yes, those are important, but truly identifying why we have these problems in the first place, which means we want to get to know you. We want to get to know your lifestyle, your diet, your trauma history, the things that you walked through. We also bring in something called psychophysiology, which is the mind-body connection. And this is what it really means to have a holistic approach when it comes to healing. So if you're sick and tired of the conventional what approach without truly healing, and you're sick and tired of working with functional practitioners or just giving you cookie cutter plans, and you want to learn more about the RSN approach, you can book a free call by visiting rachelscheer.com.
I love that distinction, especially when it comes to educating people on both conventional and functional medicine, and with functional medicine becoming a lot more well-known, which 5 years ago, 10 years ago, I brought up functional medicine. I don't even think it was 10 years ago, but probably 5 years ago, I would bring up functional medicine, and people would be like, oh, what is that? That's woo-wee, kind of alternative healthcare. But it's becoming a lot more well-known. And I think one of the big problems that we're seeing, it's not that conventional medicine is bad, right? We'll see a lot of people now start to demonize conventional medicine, say conventional is bad, never rely on it. And we can dive into all of big pharma, and there's a lot of corruption, 100% in the pharmaceutical industry, in the use of medicine and all of that stuff. But without getting into that a lot today, conventional medicine is not the problem. Yeah. In my opinion. I think the problem is the use of conventional medicine as the sole source for producing health. And I know something you and I have talked about is the healthcare of the future. It's really going to educate on conventional, but it's also going to educate on functional medicine. And I think what will be really empowering is when we can create a system where people are aware of conventional. Maybe they go to the conventional medicine route and they get some testing done, and maybe they do find something very serious that's happening, or somebody gets in an accident, right? We know with our warriors, conventional medicine has saved so many lives, and it can be relied on for those reasons. But let's just say somebody like me who goes the conventional medicine route and nothing is really found that serious, now conventional can refer over to a functional practitioner who can then maybe do a bit further investigation, look at this person's lifestyle, their nutrition, they can look at their gut health, they can look maybe more in depth at their hormones, and they can really do a very powerful lifestyle assessment to dig into what else could be playing a role in this person's chronic health issues. And vice versa, as people are educated on functional, maybe they start and they go the functional route and they do some of the extensive testing, and maybe they find something that's very serious that is going on. Now the functional practitioner can refer over to the conventional practitioner. So I think where the healthcare of the future really comes in is it's not one against the other, it's both working in tandem with each other. But the problem is we've only been educated on conventional. We've been taught to make doctors our gods. We give away our power. Yeah. We use medication to heal everything. And we see this epidemic rising where people are getting sicker and sicker. And there's a really interesting statistic that I pulled, but it's that over half of Americans are on prescription medications with an average of 4 medications per person.
Wow. That's a lot. It's a lot.
And the majority of the epidemic that we're struggling with really comes back to lifestyle disease.
Yeah.
And
preventable then.
Yeah. So if we're dealing with lifestyle disease, wouldn't it make sense to take more of a preventative approach, but also even further to address lifestyle related health issues, which is not a medication deficiency, can be very important when it comes into really helping somebody get out of a bad place. But there's a reason why chronic disease continues to rise greater and greater every single decade, despite all of our medical advancements, and people are just getting sicker.
So do you think there's a dark side to this? Like, are we getting sold on the idea of just managing a lifestyle of pain, sickness, and trauma. I mean, because it is highly profitable. I mean, when I start to really understand how much is spent on medications, and your average person, I would venture to say, it's not that they want to be on medications. They have a lot of side effects. You know what I mean? It makes, okay, now I can't sleep well, or my digestive system isn't great, or my sex drive just went like to nothing.
I think it's all we're taught, though.
Exactly.
People don't question it.
Exactly. And I think it's also interesting to get into a little of the mindset, which is when you start to say, hey, there's another way, there's functional medicine, you can take a root cause approach, you'll see people, and it kind of sounds like, ooh, that doesn't feel scientific. That feels like fringe. That feels like, someone who smells like essential oils and goes to yoga retreats and says that, like, I'm going to put this, spirulina is going to cure your cancer. And we are like, oh, that's not real medicine. That's not real science. The incredible thing now is that with functional medicine is that we're able to see the biomarkers. We're able to actually create diagnostic and actually see the improvements that it's making. But I think we still have some stigma to overcome of helping to educate people on the nature of it. And I also don't think we're taught to even seek help of any kind. We're not taught to prevent. We're not taught to invest in our health. It's when we have pain and sickness, when we're at a level 10, we finally go and see a doctor. And then it's also, I would say, the fault can't lie with the doctor who does provide intervention at that moment, because most of what doctors are seeing are people who are coming in at a high pain point. They need an intervention by the time they're seeking medical attention. And so, of course, that's what's necessary. But I don't think we're taught to really listen to warning 1, warning 2, warning 3, warning 4 of the body that with lifestyle probably could have prevented you from getting to even need intervention level. But again, we're not taught that. We're not taught to listen to our bodies. We're taught to just try and make the symptoms go away, or to ignore it until it gets where we cannot ignore it anymore. And so some of that isn't just on the conventional medicine. Some of this is on having to change the paradigm in the conversation about how we operate in health, what choices we make when we see a functional nutrition practitioner, when we see someone from the conventional medical system.
Yeah, you hit on something really powerful. Health isn't just the absence of disease, it's the presence of optimal feeling and function.
Yeah.
And so, of course, we would hope that people maybe would go the more of the functional medicine route to take a preventative approach. But unfortunately, usually most of the time, it's when people are suffering, they have that high pain point, and they're in a really bad place, and this is where conventional medicine normally comes in. But I think the power lies into educating people on, really advocating for their own health.
Yeah. When did you have that moment? What was that moment when you unlocked this understanding, this passion for what you do? Because what's interesting to me about your life and story is that it's not just that you unlock this love and passion and purpose for helping others, but also for raising up an army of leaders and practitioners who are also being able to heal others. And I think that's a beautiful thing. Tell me about that for you. What was the moment that unlocked that sense of passion and purpose for the functional medicine?
It was in the moment when I was sitting in the doctor's office with a colorectal surgeon, and he was telling me that I needed to have my entire large intestine removed. And
how old were you?
I was 26.
Oof. Yeah.
And I was on 5+ medications. And even before that, I had the moment of just lying in bed one day and bawling my eyes out and saying over and over again, this isn't my life. This isn't my life. And I just felt betrayed by my body. And I was somebody who was not just passive when it came to my health issues. I was actively trying to get to the root of what was really going on.
Yeah.
I was going to the specialist. I was doing the scans, the CTs, the blood work. I went to different gastroenterologists, some of the top gastroenterologists in the United States. I even went all the way to the Mayo Clinic, which is the most incredible medical institute in the United States. They dare in all of their testing. And I was still left with medication. And I actually remember there was one physician at the Mayo Clinic who kind of brought up, hey, maybe there's some bacteria imbalances going on in your gut. But at the time, nobody was really talking about the microbiome. They weren't talking about how all these different systems were connected. No one actually got to know me and got to my lifestyle. And as I really started to explore, which in that doctor's office, when I was faced with that decision to either get my entire large intestine cut out, I decided to give myself just a little bit more time. I was like, I'm going to just give myself 3 months. And I just became obsessed with learning everything that I could about the gut and the gut microbiome. And because a lot of my core health issues were stemming from my gut. I mean, that's what was making everything so miserable for me. I couldn't use the restroom. I was bloated every single day. And this wasn't just like a stomach ache. I mean, they were wanting to cut out my entire large intestine. My life was miserable at this point, but I started to learn more about the microbiome, and this created my obsession with gut health. I would literally be up, researching the microbiome every single night, and I did various elimination diets. I started to learn about SIBO, small intestinal bacteria overgrowth, and how these bacteria in our gut aren't just dormant, but they're actually connected to every system in our entire body, from our hormones, our thyroid, to our adrenals, to our brain. And I started to do these different functional protocols. I worked with different functional practitioners. I did the microbiome testing. That's where they gave me the diagnosis of SIBO, which one thing I talk about, which I found later after relapsing multiple times with SIBO, is SIBO's not the root cause, but it's part of the symptom as well. But I got more into this functional realm, and I just was blown away, because I was like, nobody is talking about this. Nobody is talking about how everything's interconnected. And what really bothered me the most, Lauren, is nobody actually got to get to know me. And as I really started to peel back and put these puzzle pieces together that I had to do on my own, I had to be my own advocate for my healing. But as I started to put these puzzle pieces together, I was like, all right, dysbiotic gut, which means an imbalance of the good and the bad bacteria, SIBO. All right, well, where did this come from? Well, let's look at my life and what was going on. At the time, I was very lean. I was competing in competitive bodybuilding. I was at a very low % body fat. I had a ton of emotional and physical stress. So I had a lot of metabolic stress also on my body. And what happens when the body is operating in this cortisol sympathetic dominant state? Everything shuts down. The gut stops producing digestive enzymes. Motility comes to a halt, which creates the perfect terrain for bacteria to begin to overgrow. Hello, SIBO. Hello, dysbiosis. Hello, digestive issues with the lack of digestive enzyme production. But also, when we're under this much stress, whether it's metabolic stress or physical stress or emotional stress, the body downregulates the entire neuroendocrine system. So the thyroid slows down. The hormones decrease. So this is where I didn't have any menstrual cycle as well. So I had no estrogen, no progesterone. I had hypothyroidism. Well, what does also hypothyroidism play a role in? Slow motility in the gut. So everything started to make sense. And a big part of this was still coming from my lifestyle. The amount of stress I was under, how lean I was, how I was pushing my body. And even peeling that back further and further was where I really started to do more of the inner work and realize how much my relationship with myself, my view of myself, my identity, and how much trauma was also rooted in this drive and this push that I had as well. But if one person, physician, would have actually gotten to know me, my lifestyle, what was happening, the stress I was under, the emotional side, the physical side, it actually was very obvious what was happening. But instead, everything was looked at individually. The symptoms were addressed. And here I am about to remove my entire large intestine. So for me, this was that moment of where it just lit a fire in me. I was like, I don't want anybody else to ever have to go through what I went through. And I just found this passion and this love for gut health and functional medicine and getting to the root cause. And that led me to start my own practice, literally with the intention of, I just want to give other people the approach that I wish that I had. Because I know exactly what I wish that I had and what I would have needed. I want to get to know what's going on in somebody's life, their stressors, their nutrition. I want to get to know their stress levels. I want to do extensive testing, look at the microbiome, look at how everything is interconnected. I want to really look at the full picture and then create a customized plan to help this person heal and address the root cause.
Beautiful.
So Lauren, I'm so excited to have you a part of Rachel Scheer Nutrition, but what are some of the reasons why you wanted to join the Rachel Scheer Nutrition team?
When I looked at the projections of where functional medicine is expected to go over the next few years, I mean, it's going to skyrocket, as well as telemedicine. So when I got to see, hey, this is an opportunity not just to be on the forefront of a conversation about the paradigm of healthcare changing in our nation today, but also a movement to equip those leaders who will lead the way. I mean, that's an incredibly exciting thing. So I'm excited to see what's ahead because, I mean, honestly, we're just getting started.
I know, we're just getting started, and it's so exciting to see how functional nutrition and functional medicine truly is the healthcare of the future. And I am so excited to see the amount of health coaches and dietitians, nurse practitioners, and nurses who are wanting to get into this field, who are wanting to truly make an impact. They're sick and tired of having only 15 minutes with clients who really don't actually want their advice, and to be able to also create the freedom that they truly want in their life as well, to create the impact and the income. So if you guys are listening to this and you want to learn more about how you can get in on functional nutrition and become certified with your background as a health coach or a practitioner, you can head over to rachelscheer.com/certification and you can learn more about our certification process.
Big things ahead.
Big things ahead.
I had no idea that it was going to grow into this crazy mission that we are both working on today now.
I love that so much. I mean, and what I hear you saying is you're like a detective. You're trying, when you said, I just gave myself 3 months, because you're about to make a life-altering decision at 26 years old, and you gave yourself the time and trying to put together piece by piece and clue by clue. But two things that were really interesting in what you said is that by the way you're talking, it's so clear to see that, and when did that happen? How many years ago was this now?
My gut issues, I think, was 2013.
2013. Okay. So, I mean, we're going on, another 12 years since it's happened.
Wow, has it been that long? I'm like, I don't even remember.
But the incredible thing is that over those 12 years where you used to have to go and, these health books and these health food stores. I remember they'd be in some like fringe area of town and they'd smell weird when you went in. You could buy like a couple of items there, and then there'd be some, book that, only a few like of the health nuts read. Since those days, we are seeing this actually come and be more mainstream. We're also seeing science is now being able to back up so many of these things, from what you described, the psychophysiology piece, the fact that we see autoimmune conditions and people with a history of trauma going hand in hand. So we're starting to understand the science of it so much more, which I think is really exciting. But then second, and this is very interesting to me, is that we're seeing an entirely new model for how the business of health is actually conducted. And so I think just in the past few years, there's been a huge boom in telehealth since the pandemic. And a lot of your business models actually based on this. So our ability to connect with one another virtually, 4,300% increase in telehealth utilization. And we've also seen a $250 billion healthcare spend shift to virtual care. So I think when we talk about the healthcare of the future, the fact that we're going to see a time in which practitioners and people who want to rise up and lead and help others are going to be able to do so in a very different way than we've even seen before. How do you feel like this rise in telehealth is going to start to change the healthcare of the future?
I think it allows a lot more opportunity for practitioners as well as the patients. And we saw a big rise with telehealth once the pandemic happened and everybody got more on the virtual side of everything when it comes to healthcare. But our entire practice, Rachel Scheer Nutrition, it's a virtual functional medicine practice. And what is so incredible about that is where we used to just have a brick and mortar practice here in the Dallas area where we could serve people here locally. And as we started to grow the practice, especially because of the power of social media, we started to attract people into the practice who were out of state, who were from all over the US, eventually even international people. And what's really great about this telehealth functional model is even some of the labs can be done with people who are out of state or even live in different countries. Now there is a little bit of a difference between serum and non-serum labs. Basically what that means is blood-based labs and non-blood-based labs. So people who are international, we can do gut testing, we can do Dutch testing, which is dried urine test for comprehensive hormones, we can do some toxin testing, but we can still do all of the functional testing with people across the United States, and we can deliver a care virtually. And it's just transformed health, where you can now work with some of the top practitioners in the United States and see them virtually in the comfort of your home. So it's given so much more opportunity for people to find the health care that they really desire with the people that they want to work with. But on top of it, it's also given a lot more job opportunities. We're seeing a rise of nurse practitioners, of nurses, of registered dietitians who are fed up with the conventional model. And I was actually one of them. Before I got into having my own functional medicine practice, I worked in clinical. I worked for a children's hospital. After I graduated from Baylor, I was like, I just want to have Grey's Anatomy. That's like what I envisioned. And I was like, I'm going to go work at a hospital.
She was looking for McDreamy.
Oh yeah, I was looking for McDreamy all the way. There was no McDreamy.
There was no McDreamy.
There was no McDreamy. They had me in the basement reading patients' charts for about 7 hours a day. I would get 5 minutes actually with patients.
5 minutes?
Literally 5 minutes. And most of the people did not want any nutrition advice. And this was a children's hospital, so it was a lot of constipation consults, number one. Like, okay, educate the parents on helping your kids eat more fiber. Let's talk about that. They had to be hospitalized because of their constipation.
Oh, no.
And then I also had to do some education for morbidly obese children too. But it was really educating the parents. And of course, the parents were very obese along with the children. But this is really what my job was. And I was like, this is not what I went into $70,000 of college debt to go to school to do. I'm like, I really wanted to help people. And I think we're seeing this with a lot of practitioners is they're not getting the time that they desire. Most people who get into being a nurse or a nurse practitioner or a dietitian, they want to make a massive impact in people's lives. They feel this calling to want to serve other people, and then they get minimal time with people to even talk to them about their nutrition or their health. And the people don't actually want the information that they're even being given. And so they're just seeing this conventional method is not helping people at all, and they're seeing people get sicker and sicker. I also can't tell you how many people who come from the pharmacy side and
really from pharmaceuticals are getting into functional.
Have actually become certified through our institute. Pharmacists, and they're seeing how much just medication they're dishing out. And they went to school for I don't even know how long. You know, you go to school to be a pharmacist. They're incredibly intelligent,
of course,
and they're seeing that entire system, and they're like, I don't want to do this anymore. And so we're seeing a big shift too in these professionals wanting to leave the conventional route and wanting to actually feel empowered by one, serving people and actually creating the impact that they want to create by taking a root cause approach, having more time with their clients than just 5 minutes or 15 minutes, people who are also highly motivated. And they actually want to create a change, because very often when you're working in a hospital setting and you're going to see a nutritionist, it's because they're told that the nutritionist just has to work with them. It's not because they're like, hey, I really want to make a lot of these lifestyle changes. The people don't listen to it. And so now we're seeing these practitioners get to work with highly motivated people, people who want to make a change in their life. They're actually able to make the impact that they want to make. So they're creating that impact. And then they also have the freedom that they want, because we see a ton of burnout in the professionals in healthcare.
And we ask so much of those that are in the conventional system too. I think our nurses and nurse practitioners and doctors are on their feet all day. They're seeing clients back to back. And so that's where I think we can't just say, oh, the system's all wrong and bad. The system, yes. But there's so many individuals there that are there to help people. But when you have a list of, patients a mile long and you only get 7 minutes with people, all you can do is just try and triage the situation, try and hit the pain points as best you can. But I want to see the day come when we have, kids when they grow up, oh, I want to be, go to the moon. I want to be a doctor. But I want to see this idea that people can really build an entire career in healthcare, not just sick care. And by the way, we still need those that are working on the front lines, that are surgeons and are pushing for medical advances. Like, we need that, absolutely. But I want to see another generation rise up, and we are seeing it. That's the incredible thing, of people who have a heart to heal and a heart to help. They're starting to say, like, wait, we need this, but it's not the only way. And so it's kind of a twofold thing. I believe we're going to see the day in which people are going to start to understand that there's a full career to pursue where you're able to actually really help people. You're able to sit not for 7 minutes, but an hour and a half, and actually listen to the entirety of someone's story, understand how their body's working all together. And I mean, it's really exciting. And I think especially with, as tough as COVID was, the fact that it provided this breakthrough in telemedicine. So now we're seeing all of this come together. It's going to be an interesting next few years. My prediction is that we are going to see healthcare, and it's something you and I've talked a lot about. I mean, when you're able to integrate technology, when you're able to create this synergy between the conventional and functional, I mean, when you're able to understand the mind and the body connection and how it goes together, we are going to see total body, not just care, but optimization. Like, I think it's going to be unparalleled, honestly.
Yeah, I really think the healthcare of the future will be where practitioners are empowered to really take a health-based approach with their clients and create the freedom that they want for themselves. But functional is working, like we talked about earlier, in tandem with conventional medicine, and people are educated on both of these options. And so I think it's a very exciting time. And I'll even add this, because I know we're kind of getting close towards the end of this podcast, but as I've stepped into the functional space, I've worked with hundreds and hundreds of people in their healing journey. I know one of the things we're really excited about is also bringing in more of the mind-body connection and the psychophysiology side, because as I shared my story earlier here, is I was able to do a lot of healing through working on my gut and really get rid of a lot of my health issues. But a piece that I really mentioned earlier and I had to lean into was some of the healing aspects with trauma. And what I've found with my own functional practice is we've been able to help a ton of people. But when we can actually combine things like functional medicine with some other different alternative therapies, when we can combine it with nervous system work, when we can combine it with somebody doing some of the inner work with their trauma, this is actually the healthcare of the future, where we can synchronize these things all together, which is something we are working on right
yes,
now.
It is something we're working on. And that's so important, because I think as much as we talk about the fragmentation that takes place in the conventional sense, there's a huge fragmentation in alternative medicine too. You have like one person that's really passionate about psychedelics, and then someone else who's all into therapy and inner work and mental health. And then you have somebody else who's really big on, well, you just need to eat clean and do your ice bath and get in, a functional, a CrossFit workout. And so you have people who are passionate about a certain modality, and they feel that it's the only way and the one way, but that's still specializing. And that's what we really need, is to bring together, as you're saying, and what we're working on too, is the ability to actually sequence and bring together true whole body healing, even in the alternative space where it's mind, nervous system, and body all being worked on at the same time. And that's the exciting part. I mean, that's the beauty and what I'm so excited about what we have and coming next. And it's amazing to see so many passionate people rising up and saying, oh, I want to make this a full-time profession. I want to spend my days actually helping and healing others. It's a beautiful thing to see that coming. And I believe we're going to see an army. We're seeing this multiplication of it. And I mean, as I did some research the other day of just how functional medicine is expected to, I mean, exponentially grow over the next few years. And it's incredible. It's incredible to be at this point and at this moment and on the forefront of getting to help lead. I mean, for me, it's just incredibly fulfilling because I, like you, a lot of my early experiences that were traumatic led to SIBO, gut health issues, so many things. And so to be able to understand the entire body and how it works together, I think, again, it's going to unlock a new chapter for humanity in a way we've never seen before. So
we're excited to share more with everybody and what we're working on soon. But it's really an exciting time, so if you are a nurse or a practitioner or a dietitian or even a coach who wants to get into this incredibly exciting field of functional nutrition or functional medicine, you should definitely check out the RSN Institute of Functional Nutrition. If you're somebody who's maybe been on the edge of leaning into functional medicine and doing some of the testing, I hope maybe this podcast gave a little bit more clarity to you on what really the difference is between functional and conventional medicine. But in your opinion, Lauren, what would you say are the 3 keys for functional medicine or understanding the healthcare of the future?
Yeah, I mean, really at the core, I see that root cause versus symptom management. That's a big paradigm that we need shifted. And so I think in the day, if in your life when a symptom comes up, I have a headache, I consistently have terrible PMS, I have gut health issues, our first instinct for most of us, especially Americans, right, is what can I take to provide relief? How can I get the symptom to go away? So I think a key would be starting to really listen to your body instead of saying, shut up, be quiet, every time your body tries to raise its hand and say, hey, something's off. Instead, asking the question and saying, how can I really understand the root cause of why it's happening? I think that is definitely a key that can unlock so much and actually unlock a healing that lasts for a long time and doesn't just mask symptoms.
Yeah, I love that one. And I would also add as a second key, really understanding that the practitioners that we work with, whether it's in conventional or functional medicine, is they're really our partners. And healing requires radical ownership. As I shared my story earlier, I use that word. I had to take massive ownership over my healing and my health, right? And not saying that you need to do what I did and become obsessed with learning about the microbiome and all of the bacteria and all of that. But if I would have just been passive, if I would have just done what I was taught to do most of my life, continue to get on medication, I would be without my large intestine today. So I love what you said earlier about question. So I would add to that, but also be willing to take massive ownership. When you're working with somebody, you're partnering with them and they're helping guide you in your healing journey. But at the end of the day, you have to be the one who's willing to make the change and do the work.
It's not outsourcing responsibility. It's really, I like that word, the partnership that you said too. And I would add lastly to that is that we especially here in the West have to really start to understand that our body is an interconnected system, and that means all functions of the body are all affecting each other, and our mind and body, that psychophysiology, has a huge impact. And so I think we're taught to have such a barrier between mind and body. And we're just now beginning to understand how things like trauma, things like how you see your identity and your place in the world, like it's not just that there's this psychological realm that's there for anxiety and trauma and this kind of thing, and then a physical realm. There's so much interconnectedness there. And that's something that really excites me because I have seen this proven out in so many ways. And I've gotten to work with, warriors that have been to combat. And it's such an extreme example of psychophysiology of how this experience or the environment that you were in actually changes biology. And so it's an exciting thing, and it's exciting, more of an emphasis that, something that we're really placing an emphasis on and the things that we're working on. But the body as an interconnected system, all aspects of it, that's a huge key in understanding that. So I think just the awareness of one thing might be affecting another thing, I think that right there is a huge key to unlocking the power of functional medicine.
Yeah, I love looking at it from that lens of just how everything is interconnected, because then you can also start to look at how symptoms are really clues.
Yes.
And where there's something manifesting in the body, it's very likely connected to something else that's happening in your body. Just everything is interconnected. We are a very well working machine. And so healing is going to be addressing all areas of the body.
If this episode hits home for you, share it with somebody who needs it. I think especially if there's someone who is within the healthcare system, but feels that there's more to help and heal others. So if you're a practitioner or health professional wanting to lean more into becoming certified in functional medicine, we have a lot to offer.
And if you are a practitioner or health professional wanting to learn more about becoming certified in functional medicine, you can check out rachelscheer.com/certification to learn more about the RSN Institute of Functional Nutrition. And if you want to learn more about our functional root cause approach, you can also visit rachelscheer.com and learn more about how our process works. And we'll see you next time.
Same lock, new keys.
There you go. We'll just go back.